Hi everyone, my name is Nkosi. I am from Ince, and the topic of discussion is how to politically proof your portfolio and how to grow your investments in the times of political uncertainty. And if you want a deep dive into these insights, please go to www.inghamanalytics.com, and I am here with Mr. Mark Ingham himself. Thank you very much for availing yourself today, Mark.
Njabula, glad to be here.
Thank you. And so, Mark Ingham, the heart of our discussion today has been around political uncertainty and how we can politic-proof our investments. And there has been some uncertainty as to whether or not our country and our investments will go the way of our neighboring countries, such as Zimbabwe. Is there anything that gives credibility to that sentiment, or is it a different story?
Okay, I think that's a good point you make. We're fortunate, we're quite unique in South Africa, in Africa, in that we have incredibly deep and liquid capital markets.
Yeah.
And that's the JSE, and it includes the bond market and the foreign exchange market as well.
Yeah.
Now, if you take government debt, which has been escalating, and we know that, interest expenditure now as a percentage of non-interest total government expenditure is 14% and continuing to rise. However, 90% of South Africa's government debt is in rand. Only 10% is in foreign currencies. Of that 90%, almost 40% is held by foreign investors who invest in the SA bond market. Similarly, the same proportion invests in stocks in the JSE. We know what happens with the FX market every day. The rand goes around like a yo-yo. But a lot of that trade is out of London, and it's one of the most liquid currencies in the world. So, in fact, that sends positive signals too, if you're behaving yourself, and it sends negative signals when you misbehave, as we've seen. So those price signals are vitally important because they can send a clear message, if the government is listening, as to the attractiveness of South Africa to foreigners. And when they head for the hills because of nervousness, or some sort of politician says something really wacky, they can sell out very quickly. If government is looking to roll over particular bonds or to generate new money through the sale of bonds, it needs those foreigners. There simply isn't the funding capability in South Africa to fund that demand for debt. And so that particularly, I think, is an important check and balance on government here. And I think under the new sort of dispensation, per our first scenario, I think we have a person running the country now who is acutely aware of these things. And I think that would be positive in shaping the policy agenda as we go forward, to not just be investor friendly, but I think also cognizant of what the rating agencies have on us. Their view is important. They measure credit risk. And so to maintain access to those markets, we need to ensure that we have a reasonable rating. S&P did downrate South Africa to sub-investment grade. Moody's have us on the cusp of investment grade. So what that means too is that if you're not an investment grade country, and we could have easily remained one if certain things hadn't happened. So we shot ourselves in the foot, in fact both feet. But it is important to attract those investors abroad who you would want to have. And if you lose your investment grade rating, you lose those investors who have mandates to only hold investment grade stock. And so you may end up with getting investors who are attracted by the yield. Let's say the R186 8.5%, which for many foreign investors is a very attractive yield, regardless of the currency risk, then you may end up with a group of overseas investors who are there because of the yield, not because of your rating.
Yeah.
And so we're in a very finely balanced sort of situation at the moment.
That's fantastic. And just another question on, recently our GDP has contracted by 3.2%. What does that mean for our investments and the companies that you said we should invest in, and the fears that our economy might go south?
Now, we're fairly comfortable that the companies that are under the spotlight are fairly resilient. That doesn't mean to say they're not affected.
Yeah.
But it's all relative. Bearing in mind that some of those rather dreadful figures that came out on the economy were a function of what was happening at Eskom.
Okay.
Manufacturing and mining particularly were hammered. There will be, hopefully, in a more stable power supply situation, some of that lost output will be recovered in future months. So I don't think that is an indication that that will be the case for a full year. Nevertheless, it's extremely disappointing, and a further wake-up call for the right policy decisions, and importantly to have those properly sort of implemented, to ensure that you've got business confidence, which we don't have, and that you've got investor confidence, which we don't really have. Companies are hoarding cash; they're not investing. And we need to encourage in South Africa all hands on deck. At the moment, it's a dialogue of the deaf between business and government. That's got to change.
100%. But the overall outlook is that of a positive one from your perspective?
Not on the economy, no. We have some serious hurdles here. And we have a skills deficit that is acute. So, no, we're not looking at the GDP or the overall economy to come to the rescue of these companies.
Yes.
We think that they've got the right strategies in place, the right sort of commercial sensibilities to be able to ride through, rough storms and still to have a reasonable earnings underpin. That does not mean that they're going to generate high earnings growth, but I think they will retain solid statements of actual sort of financial position going forward. We don't see any particular retardation in that. If we get a tailwind and we get a pickup in confidence, so much the better, but we're not relying on that.
All right, fantastic. But South Africa is still a great place for us to invest in. And my name is Njabulo Nkosi. I'm here with Mr. Mark Ingham, and these are his insights on politically proofing our investments and our portfolios.
Thank you, Njabulo. That was well done.
Thank you very much.